Hello and welcome to another edition of What Does the Giraffe Say with me, Kathleen Ritorne. We are an organisation that aims to connect people with conservation efforts around the world by holding interviews on social media. Today, I'm very happy and honoured because I am being joined by Cassinga, and he is the CEO and founder of Conserv Congo. So Adams, I'm just going to hand over to you. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and why you switched from investigative journalism and mining industry into conserving wildlife.
Thank you very much, Kathleen, and I'm glad to be here. It is one of those few opportunities that we have to share with the public about the work that we do. And I am very grateful that I'm one of your guests today. My name is Cassinga. I am from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I am the CEO and founder for a local organization called Conserv Congo. Conserv Congo has got a mission to preserve the biodiversity of the Congo Basin and do that through three distinct objectives, one of them being the fight against poaching and wildlife trafficking. The second one is doing conservation through education. And we do have this particular project where we focus on the youth below the age of 18. And each week we supply a course, or should I say a pep talk, to about 2,000 students. That's only in the city of Kinshasa on environmental issues, and where we prepare and share their little minds into becoming responsible adults, especially when it comes to the conservation sphere. The third one is using agriculture not only as an option to poaching, but also as a way to ensure food security. I have been in this field for almost 10 years now. I switched, surprisingly, from investigative journalism via mining, the mining industry up here. This is not a choice. I never chose to be here. But I think 10 years ago when I returned to my country from exile, and I discovered a need, I found a need for somebody to do this because nobody else does besides state, of course. And we all know that the state cannot do anything for us. Sometimes we as people have got to take our destiny into our own hands. And this is one of those natural heritage which our grandparents passed on to us. And I felt that something needed to be done. And I know some here are professionals in the field of conservation. Others are researchers, others are professors, others are, you know, it's a multitude of activities, but this is a responsibility to us. If we don't do it, nobody else will do it for us. And this is how I found myself in here. I wouldn't say it was by accident. I would say perhaps it was destiny, but here I am, and I am glad to be contributing towards preserving the natural heritage of my country, but also serving humanity at the same time.
Yeah, well, we're so glad that you are doing what you're doing. Now, I know in the DRC, there's some huge challenges with conservation, and I think it's been placed as one of the two most problematic countries in Africa in terms of protecting wildlife and conservation issues. What are the typical issues that you're facing, and how do you go about combating it?
We are faced with many challenges, I must say. One of the challenges that we face is corruption. Corruption is so rife in our country that it has become like second nature. And in my own words, I always say, without corruption, there's almost no wildlife trafficking. So in my own words, I say corruption is the greasing mechanism for the wildlife trafficking machinery. So should we eradicate corruption, we should be killing two birds with one stone. And thus, Conserv Congo fights for wildlife, at the same time combating corruption. The second point is poor leadership or poor governance. Without proper leadership and clean governance, it is going to affect every sphere of our society. And conservation is one of those few spheres that are attacked because there is no proper leadership. Everybody feels like they could do what they want just because they could bribe their way through. But also we face other challenges such as lack of funding or very limited funding. Our country for the last 10 to 20 years, it has faced a lot of other issues, or should I say problems, pertaining to human rights. And sometimes these other issues, which are very much pressing, they kind of overshadow the issue of wildlife crimes. When you speak about the DRC, what most people think of is the civil war, it is the injustice, it is the human rights, the gross human rights violations. And when you talk about wildlife, our people tend to think, well, that's the least. But actually, when you look at it, all these crimes, they're intertwined. Whatever affects a human being, indirectly or directly affects wildlife as well. And trying to separate them is playing hypocrisy, because we all know that money that emanates from wildlife trafficking purchases weapons, which then kills people, and then it goes back to buy machinery to do illegal mining in our natural reserves, our nature reserves and national parks, and the cycle goes on and on and on and on. So literally, wildlife trafficking is the fourth most lucrative crime in the world. And that is just behind arms deals, behind drug deals, and behind human trafficking. So it goes to show you that fighting this crime will be solving a lot of other issues pertaining to security, health, economy, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you touched on it there a little bit as we were talking, but I mean, the DRC does have a bit of a poor reputation when it comes to safety and things like that. Now, your work is dealing with infiltrating gangs in organizations. And I know previously as well, when I was researching you, that you've been awarded actually an award for your work as an investigative journalist when facing courage with the No Danger, No Story. How do you build yourself up to be working in these sort of environments, and what kind of gives you the courage to continue?
Right. Sometimes some people are gifted to choose their careers and their professional path. And unfortunately, I didn't. You know, we are pushing to be better and to be the best that we can be in our lives. And we can only do that using the gifts that we've been given by the Almighty. Like once I was a journalist, it's because I thought I could write. And it's because I could tell stories through writing. I never foresee that there'll be dangers. But then in the line of work, dangers do come along. How do you deal with them? And unfortunately, I'm one of those few journalists in Africa who face this dilemma in the line of work. And I am glad today I survived. I could have been killed. I could have sustained a permanent injury, but I didn't. And I live today to tell the tale. And it's the same courage that I'm still using today. So all the experiences I gathered in my previous work or in my previous employment have shaped me to become the person I am today, and that I can be able to push the energy and the experience that I've gathered into a positive way to impact the conservation sphere. It is not because I was born and I said, yes, I'm going to be first an investigative reporter, and then I'm going to be a miner and then become this. It just comes along. And I believe in destiny. Our destiny shapes us, and my destiny has shaped me to go through these dangers, but not only just to go through, but to go through experiences that are going to make me better, stronger, and so that I can leave a legacy, not just any legacy, but a positive one. And today, I'm still using those experiences to get better and better at everything that I do. And today I can say that I am glad I went that rough way, because that rough way eventually helped me to make things easier for others.
Yeah, yeah. I completely agree that sometimes the path you end on is not necessarily the one you would have chosen, but it ends up being the right one for you. We have a question coming through from Stacey Satterfield. She's based in the US. Hello, Stacey. And she's saying, tackling wildlife crime is a massive task. How can people support those on the ground trying to combat it?
Thank you very much. This is a question that is always asked, but unfortunately, there's never been a follow-up. But I know Stacey is one of those people that are very much engaged, and I believe that the answer I'm going to give is going to help her also be in a position to help her work. So there is so many ways that one can help us. The first one is to share their information. So not many people are aware of the situation currently. Some people think this is just an African issue. Others think it's an Asian issue. It's a situation of them and us, but it's not them and us. This situation affects us. And I'm going to give you an example. We have the second largest forest in the world. It means after the Amazon is the Congo Basin forest. Not many people know that, but now I'm putting it out there. And this forest will never grow. It will never get better and regenerate if it does not have wildlife, especially animals, in it. And what happens, once these animals are killed completely, the forest will start degrading. And the oxygen emanating from this, it does not know any border, it doesn't know any race. It serves the entire humanity, and it calls upon the attention of everybody to contribute in a way or another so that we can preserve this, even though it is in our country, but it does not just serve our country. And many people are going to wonder why. It's just trees. These trees are special trees. They have got seeds, and most of these seeds have got to go through the digestive system of certain animals, such as the elephants, such as the primates. And these animals can walk about hundreds of kilometers in one night. They can even reach places where a human being cannot reach. And therefore, like Dr. Jan Redmond puts it, they become the gardeners of the forest. They help take care of the forest while we enjoy the benefits of sequestrating the carbon and emitting oxygen for us. And that calls upon every one of us to be part and parcel, to be a solution instead of just being victims of the problem. Secondly, some other people think that, okay, well, Africans are used to eating dirt. No, just because a group of people is being ignorant, it does not mean that you have to leave them to stay so. Sometimes we have to be each other's keepers, and we have to give each other a nudge and say, look, whatever you are doing, it is not right. But just blaming and pinpointing somebody is not enough. You have to be part of the solution and say, look, you could also do this. You could also do that. And that is going to help develop the entire world and build it to become a better place for us all. The second part, it does not take anything away from us to be just a volunteer. You know, maybe you are good at IT, maybe you are good at flying planes, maybe you're good at fixing health problems. You can all still volunteer with your skills and be part of the solution. Perhaps the only thing you have is money. And we always need money as field workers. And I'm not saying necessarily you have got to support Conserv Congo. There are other millions of organizations which are very much legitimate and which you can also help. I mean, when you give according to your conviction. And if you feel convinced about the work that we do, you feel free to contact us, and we can give you channels through which you can be able to assist us. And I'm not saying that you should be able to help us and us only. No, there are so many other organizations in your respective countries, or sometimes in other foreign countries, and you can always help. And the fourth one is sharing this information. Knowing this information is one thing, but tell your family, tell your friends, tell your colleagues about it, that if wildlife crimes persist, they are going to affect you no matter where you are in your country. So those are some of the things that I may add. And I know it's not limited to those, but those are the most pressing ones.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, everything is so connected, and some people are just not aware of it. Which is why we always encourage people back home, if you're watching this, please do share it, like it, and comment. The more people that see it, the more people we can raise awareness of the situation, and hopefully the more work we can do to support organisations that are trying to protect our wildlife and wild spaces. So Adams, with part of your role as well, we mentioned it earlier, is you're working alongside local authorities. Typically, have they always been supportive of conservation, and also what's the general attitude towards conservation like in the Congo? So are we seeing any changes there?
Yes, thank you. I must say, in the beginning, we were we were treated of every name that you can call, and I'm not going to say that that has ended, but it has improved a little bit. Sometimes our presence as the civil society, members of the public, average citizens who are taking upon themselves to bring about change, it threatens our authorities, not all of them, but some of them. They feel like we are trying to do their work, and we are not. We are just being responsible citizens, and we believe that no government, none, has ever been able to do things on their own without bringing the ordinary population on board. And that's what we are doing. The second one, sometimes government feels like, oh, okay, this is a money-making mechanism for the civil society. No, for once, I left an executive job in the mining industry where I was making a lot of money, I mean, to make my life comfortable, to join this industry. If there is anything, I have sacrificed, and I'm the only one. I lead a team of volunteers. At this stage, we are about 80. Nobody pays us anything. Instead, we sell even our little belongings to be able to invest in the fight in which we are. In the beginning, we were given only a few months, but today we are almost a decade old, because we're not in here for the fame nor for the fortune. We are here to make a difference. We are here because we are committed citizens of the world, and we believe that whatever gift that we've been given by God, we can be able to develop it, maintain it, and share it with the rest of the world. At this stage, I can say that the government is being very supportive. I'm not going to say everybody will love what we do, because we are chasing after criminals, and sometimes criminals are within, and some of them are not happy. But just for the government to give us the go-ahead to operate and to do the change that we are bringing about is already one step. And support cannot always be financial. Support could be just an advice. Support could be just giving us that liberty to move around. And when we started off from 2013 up to 2016, we never made any arrests. We never made any prosecution. But from 2016, we had our first prosecution, and the sentence was just for 6 months. But today, we are having sentences of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So it shows that we are growing. Probably not at the speed that we would wish to grow, but steady, because it is work in progress. We are faced with ignorance. Even the lawmakers, people who make laws, ignore the laws. People who are supposed to enforce the laws, they don't know how to about it. And we as citizens who are already enlightened have got the responsibility to help them. It is not going to be an overnight job. It may take months, it may take years, sometimes even decades, but we are committed to take it to the point where everybody understands and everybody comes on board.
And you touched on it earlier that you do conservation education with the youth. What are their attitudes when they're first going into this? Do they care about the environment? And do you see a change in their attitudes by the end?
You'll be amazed at what this education can do. Education is one of the best. Children were having this carefree attitude because it has become a culture. And some of our learners had never seen a wild animal before, unless they saw it in the market where it was already chopped into pieces, ready to be served as dinner. But once we started talking to them, and I was surprised one of the weekends I was just walking around in the neighborhood, and I came across a lady, and she was with her son, and she called me and she said, "Are you that teacher that teaches our children about the environment?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Do you know that we cooked meat last weekend and my son couldn't eat because you told them that they shouldn't?" I said, "Wow, did he?" And I said, "How did you feel about it?" She said, "Yeah, I felt somehow awkward, but when he explained to me, I understood. And from that time henceforth, we'll never do it again. And that we've got domestic animals which are edible and which does not carry any risk of disease and otherwise." And I understand. And at that moment, I really felt proud about myself. So steady, we are seeing this change. We are having competitions once every month, and we are seeing the love. And we begin first with the pets. If you cannot take care of the cat or the dog at home, how do you care about the elephants in the forest? And sometimes we ask the children to take pictures of their pets. We ask the children to plant a tree, and gradually they take pictures of the growth of that tree. And at the end of the day, we compensate them with a token of appreciation so that we can encourage them to do better and better. And we are glad that we are seeing that paradigm shift in our society. And education does not end on the children. As we speak, we still train even the authorities. So we have shaped it like a pyramid. We don't just train the base, we also train the people who are able to take decisions which can bring about the change that we're longing for at a much higher level. And this includes magistrates, it includes prosecutors, it includes law enforcement, it includes teachers, it includes the entire justice system, even politicians. So we do not spare anybody. And you can always learn no matter the age. It doesn't mean because you're old or you're an adult that you know everything. And we have noticed that the situation, the way it is right now, it doesn't mean that people don't want to learn. It's because they didn't have an opportunity to learn, and we are giving them that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And it's some great work that you're doing. And you touched on it earlier as well, when we were talking about the local communities and the bushmeat trade that was going on there. With COVID, have you seen an increase in the bushmeat trade and poaching, where people are now struggling to make ends meet?
Oh, yes. So COVID has made it much more difficult. A lot of people have lost their jobs. It affects mostly the youth, the women, the blue-collar workers. And I can tell you, a lot of people, if they don't go hunting, they will not live. Our country is about 70% rural, people who do not have a regular income. So they depend on subsistence farming, subsistence hunting, and COVID has increased that. Over and above that, COVID has increased access to protected areas because we know during confinement, security measures were limited because people were not supposed to be outdoors. And criminals took advantage of that for the fact that there was very minimal service to go. And I can tell you from January this year to where we are, a lot of animals have been, in fact, from January last year to date, a lot of animals have been butchered. But the good news is that because of the restriction in traveling, a lot of stock has not been sent abroad. So at this stage, most poachers are sitting with a big stock that they cannot sell. And if you look at our statistics from last year, we made more arrests of traffickers than we've ever made. Once, because traffickers were very desperate, were really giving in. And two, the regular buyers who mainly come from other continents and probably from other countries did not come. So they could give their merchandise to anybody who wanted to buy. And this way we spotted them and we caught them easily and put them where they belong, which is behind bars.
Exactly. And we've been talking about it throughout. You've had quite a windy career path to end up where you are now. But what do you wish you knew at the start that you know now? And what advice would you give to people who are looking at you as an inspiration and on how to do something in your footsteps?
Yeah, I think the most awkward thing I wish I knew is that once you try to do good, you have to be fought. I thought you'd only be fought if you did wrong. But even though we are trying to do right, we get fought. We are not free. We are not only fought by traffickers, we are fought by our own people. They say we are going against the culture. We are fought by some members, by some authorities who feel like we are taking their job and that we are making them look like they don't do their job. And that's not the point, because I think they should embrace us because we are putting our efforts together in trying to curb the scourge of wildlife trafficking, but they feel like we are exposing them. We are not here to expose anybody. We are just here to do our work, which is positive in protecting wildlife, in safeguarding our natural heritage, and be able to share it with the rest of the world the way it's supposed to be, not in the wrong way. I think that is the thing I wish I knew. And there is also another thing which I always believed and which many people believe is that, and this usually comes from people who look like me, they say, are you in conservation, but you're Congolese and you're black? And that's because it was a myth which was perpetuated since I was a child. They always told us that before you get into conservation, you had to look very different from what I look like. You had to have a PhD in science. You had to be a nerd or a bookworm or whatever. And we have proved as locals that conservation is everybody's business. You could be a policeman, you could be a soldier, you could be a driver. The moment you become aware, you become part and parcel of the change makers. It could be as simple as just sharing a word with somebody. I've seen that in Kenya, I've seen that in South Africa, and I'm not saying they are perfect, but they are far advanced than we are. And I wish that anybody who feels that they could be part of this journey understand that irrespective of who you are or where you are from, your color, your creed, your religion, you can also help.
I completely agree. And I think by having people such as yourself out there and doing that work, you're getting the local generations to be able to look up and say, okay, well, he's doing it. That's something that I can actually do.
Yes.
Okay, well, I've only got one more question left. If you're watching this back home and you'd like to put a question to Adams, then please do just pop it into the comments section below and I will read it out to him. We've had some lovely comments coming through as we've been talking, so thank you so much for all the positivity. So for me, Adams, I always like to try and finish on a bit of a high and to kind of lift the mood a little bit, because conservation can feel a bit overwhelming at times. So I'd love to know what your favorite success story was.
Oh, wow. I think my biggest success story is going to be the moment where we caught our first traffickers handing the sack. And they were trying to sell a baby bonobo and 11 chopped hands of bonobos. The reason why I am proud is because the bonobo is the only real citizen of our country. It's one of the 4 great apes in the world, which is only found in our country. And second, great apes are some of the most trafficked animals in the world. But also 3, it was amazing for us to be able to catch these traffickers who have sold hundreds of these animals, but at the last moment we caught them, and there was the first case to be prosecuted in our country. If you go and check in our country's history, no trafficker has been sentenced to a term in prison before we arrested these 2. And this was in 2018. Before that, we were getting people behind bars, but after 2 weeks, after a month, they get out. But these ones, we made sure that they served their sentence. But the best part of it is that these 2, when they came out, they become one of the best allies of Conserv Congo. And today they are still informers. They gave us a lot of information. They still work with us. And because of the information they supply to us, we managed to catch other traffickers and put them behind bars. That's a success story because we are not wicked to take our countrymen and our brothers just to put them behind bars. We want to reform them. We want to change their mentality so that they can help us change our society. And that's exactly what we did. I really feel proud of that story.
I love that you kind of just flipped them around as well and got them onto the good side and away from potentially spending a life in and outside of prison as well.
Sure.
So,
yes.
Well, we've got some, as I say, we've had some lovely comments coming through. People are very supportive of what you're doing and saying what you're doing is incredible and how important the work is as well. We've had people watching from all over the world, from places such as Argentina, Europe, US, Uganda. I've actually just got a question coming through right now, actually, so I'll pull that up. So I've got a question coming through from Francisco, and he's asking, do you work with shrines? And on the traffic of great primates, what situation is the traffic decreased?
Okay, I do not understand what a shrine is. I understand it in a spiritual world. I don't know if that's what he means. If I can be able to clarify that, then I can be able to answer. The trafficking of great primates is still high. It's still very high. It's actually, primates are the #1 targets of wildlife trafficking. And at this stage, we are trying our level best to bring it to the minimal that we can. But at this stage, I must say it's really critical. And I keep on emphasizing the fact that Conserv Congo is faced with challenges, and mainly its financial challenges. We have a country as large as some continents. It is not linked. We do not have a road network. In most cases, you have to fly. So it is expensive traveling in our country trying to track down traffickers. It is also a big exercise bringing everybody on board so that we can catch these people and preserve these primates in their natural habitats. So we are still faced with these challenges. And I don't think, even though we are trying our level best, this year alone, we have rescued about 7 great apes, this year alone. And at present, we are working on about 14 cases of illegal detention of primates. So it is really rife, and we need every support and assistance that we can, so that we can make this a thing of the past.
Yeah, for sure. We've got one more question coming through as well, and then we'll start to wrap up. But you mentioned earlier you managed to convert 2 people away from the poaching side. And we've got a question coming through from Les, and they're asking, do you convert many poachers to be into this more like conserving side?
Oh, yes, that is one of our aims. We do not just want to punish. Like I say, Conserv Congo has got a whip in one hand and a carrot in the other. So we don't just punish. At the end of the day, we dangle this carrot in your face and we say, look, you could be a villain or you could be a hero. Just because you have committed these crimes for which you have actually been punished, it does not mean that you have to keep it that way. Now that you have been punished and you have learned the hard way, we want you to come on our side. And I must tell you, most of the information we have, none of us has been a poacher, none of us has been a trafficker. How do we get the information? How do we go after them? It's these very same people who give us those tips and in which we work. So we turn villains into heroes.
I love that. It's such a nice positive turnaround. We're just going to take this one last question from Carol, and they're asking, would greater tourism aid in decreasing the poaching of primates if the local community could see the benefit to them, and if would it be safe for tourists?
Of course, yes. We have been singing this song about community conservation for years. It has become a slogan. We really want it executed. And in some cases, we have arrested people who tell us, look, the only thing we have here is the forest. We have no jobs, we have no clinics, we have no schools, we have nothing. Now, what do you want us to do? But we say, but government receives aid. They say, but government has got their own priorities, and which does not seem to include everybody. I believe that if aid was great aid, aid should be sent to grassroots level organizations, because these are the people who are in touch with the most vulnerable people who could potentially be turned into poachers because of lack and sometimes because of greed. But for as long as aid is being channeled at government level in a country that is very much, it's almost drowned into corruption, we won't see that change. Or unless they try bit by bit, perhaps they send a certain percentage to government, but a certain percentage should be sent to grassroots level. Build those lodges, invite people, let the community own conservation. But for as long as government owns conservation, which is supposed to be benefiting vulnerable people, they will feel like they're being policed. And once people are being policed, they become slaves. They feel like slaves. They do not feel like they're part of the people who are taking steps, even though it sounds positive. We have seen that in other countries.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up now, Adams. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything that you would like to say before you say goodbye?
Okay. Yeah. Well, there is, I would want to encourage people to supporting grassroots level organizations such as us. And I'll tell you, for every cent you contribute towards us, we owe a report, and a positive report on where your money goes and the change that it has brought about. We do not want people just to give us a pat in the back. We are the people who
Oh, it looks like the connection's gone a little bit there. He is based in Congo, so it might be a bit of an issue with his Wi-Fi. We'll give it a couple of seconds, and if not, we'll wrap up. Luckily, it was happening right towards the end of our interview, so at least you guys back home were able to hear the majority of what he had to say. If you want to find out more, then please do post in the comments section, and we'll be able to do that for you. Oh, Adams, you're back in? Oh, no, we've lost him. Okay. Well, thank you everyone back home for watching. We really appreciate you tuning in and taking the time. As I said, please do like, comment and share, as the more people that want to see these posts, the more people can get made aware of the incredible work people are doing around the world. But for me, thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your day.